All right, let's dive right in. Today we're exploring a universe where the physical and the spiritual aren't just connected, they're governed by the same set of rules. A world where reality itself, from the salt in the sea to the state of your soul, is basically a system that can be hacked, debugged, and flat-out engineered.
So to kick things off, let me ask you this. What on earth could a dead, polluted ocean possibly have in common with a cursed, tormented soul? I know, it sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, right? But in the world we're looking at today, the answer is actually pretty mind-blowing. They are both just engineering problems waiting for a solution.
You see, on one hand, you've got physical decay. Think of ocean dead zones, just choked with salt and completely lifeless. And on the other hand, you've got spiritual decay. We're talking curses that literally eat away at a person's spirit. The really wild idea here is that you can apply the exact same methodical, problem-solving approach to both.
So let's start with something you can almost touch, the process of taking a dead patch of ocean and literally engineering it back to life. Then we'll see how that exact same logic gets applied to saving a soul. What's so elegant here is the solution. It's not about brute force. It's about getting smart, microbiologically smart. First, you reverse the chemical reaction that makes salt in the first place, splitting it back into an acid and a base. Then, you custom-design microorganisms, extremophiles actually, to literally eat those components. Finally, you just release them into the water, and these tiny biological machines get to work, chowing down on the salt and, get this, producing fresh water. It's basically terraforming, but on a microscopic scale.
Okay, so how does this translate to the spiritual realm? Well, just like you engineer microbes for a specific job, you can engineer a spiritual tool called Blaze to hunt down curses. Think of it like a spiritual smart bomb. It's a blessing, sure, but it's also a fusion of light and heat. The light part seeks out the curse's specific trigger, and the heat part zaps it, causing the whole curse to just fall apart.
And this quote just nails the whole concept. You wouldn't use one universal antivenom for every single type of snakebite, would you? Of course not. It's the same thing with curses. Each one is unique, with its own toxin, its own trigger. If you use the wrong tool, you could even make things a whole lot worse. The solution has to be a precisely engineered countermeasure, every single time. Of course, if you're going to start engineering the soul, you can't just go in blind. You need a blueprint. You have to understand its components, how it all fits together. And that's exactly what we're going to break down next.
So the soul here is presented as having three main, deeply interconnected powers. They aren't walled off from each other. They're constantly flowing together. You have memory, which is the sum of your life experiences, will, which is your power to choose, and intellect, your capacity for knowledge and reason. Memory is really the glue that holds it all together. It's not just a hard drive of facts. It's where your intellect processes what happened to you and your will attaches feelings to it. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are. Then you've got the will. Think of this as your moral engine, your decision-making core. Its strength comes directly from your integrity. But, and this is a big but, it's vulnerable. Guilt and shame can weaken it, while pride and hubris can warp it, leaving a person wide open to manipulation. And finally, the intellect, your raw processing power, your knowledge. But here's the crucial part, it's all about balance. An intellect without a moral will becomes arrogant and cruel. A will without a rational intellect is just pure, chaotic emotion. Real strength, real wisdom, comes when a humble intellect advises a principled will. So, the big question, where does the soul end up? Well, in this framework, the afterlife is a realm of waves, of frequencies, with three possible destinations. You have hell, a state of total chaos, clashing energy, pure destructive interference. Then there's Sheol, which is associated with water and waves. It's a place of transition, of purgatory. And finally, heaven, the ultimate harmony, a realm of pure light where you unite with the divine.
And what decides your destination? A concept called soul density. You can think of it like spiritual gravity. A soul that's weighed down by regrets, by attachments to worldly things, is literally heavy. It can't rise. To ascend to those higher frequencies, a soul has to be light, free of all the baggage that ties it to the physical world.
Okay, we've gone over the soul's blueprint. Now we're going to take this engineering idea to its absolute peak. Not just fixing what's broken, but creating brand new things completely from scratch.
The process for creating something, a construct, out of pure thought follows a super clear three-step engineering plan. First, you create the schematic, the conceptual framework. It's like gathering a pile of dry bones. Second, you define its properties, adding the sinew and flesh.
And third, you pour spiritual energy into it, the breath of life, and that construct comes into being.
And hey, this isn't just some random comparison. The source material is very clear that the vision of the Valley of Dry Bones is a direct metaphor for this exact creative process, taking a detailed plan and bringing it to life with focused will and spiritual energy. And the scale of this metaphysical engineering is, well, it's absolutely staggering. Using this process, a single person can draw up a blueprint for, say, a titanium dragon, and then manifest an entire army of 400 of them, all sentient, all thinking and speaking. One blueprint, one burst of energy, and an army is born.
We've gone from cleaning up oceans to building armies of dragons. For our grand finale, we're going to look at the biggest engineering project of all, engineering the spiritual deliverance of an entire nation. Let's re-examine the story of Exodus through this metaphysical lens.
The story of Exodus gets a total metaphysical makeover here. It's not just a physical journey from point A to point B, it's a massive spiritual engineering operation. It starts with a spiritual veil falling after Joseph dies. Israel's bondage in Egypt isn't just slavery, it's a spiritual death, a descent into a metaphorical Sheol, that watery realm of transition. So their deliverance comes through Moses, whose name literally means drawn from water or delivered from Sheol. And the parting of the Red Sea, that becomes a kind of mass baptism, a final act of engineering that liberates the soul of an entire nation.
So let's just tie this all together. We've seen how you can restore a Dead Sea with custom-built microbes, how you can dismantle a curse with a targeted blast of energy. We've seen that the soul itself has an architecture, memory, will, and intellect. And we've even seen how an entire nation's spiritual destiny can be re-engineered. It all points to one powerful unifying idea. Everything is a system.
And that leaves us with one last, massive question to chew on. If everything, from the tiniest organism to the grandest spiritual journey, can be understood as a kind of engineering, if life itself is a construct built from a discernible blueprint, then who is the architect? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.